Around the turn of the 1970s, anthropologist Timothy Knab was conducting field work among the communities of the Sierra region of northern Puebla. This mountain range has been relatively isolated for a very long time, and it contained pockets of indigenous cultures such as the Aztec, the Otomi, and the Totonac. While he was conducting fieldwork in this area, he was focusing on ritual language in discourse. He was looking at metaphorical languages and other aspects of rhetoric. During the course of his fieldwork, Knab began to realize that some of his older participants seemed to know a surprising amount of knowledge about how to hex, poison, curse, and heal people, which he kind of brushed to the side at first until, by various circumstances, he began to start having dreams of his own that made him curious about some of the history of these communities in the Sierra region. And as he began to go deeper into this investigation, he started to realize and uncover that back in the 1930s, there had been a blood feud between two major factions in the region between Quetzalan and San Martin Sinacapan that had been kind of left as a dirty secret nobody talked about. But he began to understand this and uncover it for himself through his own practices as he was learning from one of the elder consultants who was teaching him that if he was going to have a place in healing and improving the lives of other people around, of some of the other villagers, he needed to learn some of the magical ways by which to retrieve souls, by which to restore energies, and other aspects of ritual healing that his consultants were imparting to him. Account of his work appears in his book A War of Witches, which came out in 1995, and this is an extraordinary tale that in a sense brings together many of the themes that I have explained in some of the previous sections of this video. For example, ways in which the Aztecs have conceptualized different aspects of souls and other psychic faculties within the human body and what they are capable of, which parts of them are able to travel into other worlds. Some aspects of this chapter are textbook shamanism. Timothy Knab himself describes some of his own experiences as during his dreams when his own psychic form leaves his body and enters the underworld. And through these travels, he begins to uncover more secrets about the history of the violence that had afflicted this area back in the 1930s. And so he begins to use some of the very magical practices that he was researching in order to learn more about the history and come to some final realizations about what had happened, who was accountable, and and how to heal the village from here on. And his own role as a healer also starts to come into play, and he realizes that as he is beginning to learn how to wield and to practice magic on his own, he now has a responsibility to use it appropriately. This book also relates to matters of supernatural entities, ceremonial language, the spirit world, and many other topics that I have looked at in discussions of the previous works in this video. And so this is a really nice way of bringing it all together. It is a compelling read and highly recommended. This is a wonderful view of not only the supernatural world as a contemporary Aztec society envisions it, but also the people who are able to engage with it, and the role of the anthropologist as a participant, and the extent to which the anthropologist should be involved in these ethical questions concerning the nature of power and knowledge and communal responsibility. Arguably, the most important aspect of magic that is explored in A War of Witches is the role of the Nahual. That is a kind of spirit double that exists in some sense independently of a human person, but also is psychically connected to him. There is a sympathetic rapport between the experiences of the human and the animal that if the experiences of one ultimately affect those of the other. And this is a very important idea. This is an agent that is able to travel into the underworld, the spirit world, and this is brought into very vibrant detail in Knab's account of A War of Witches, in which he describes not only his own experiences of having a Nahual, but also encountering those of people who are traveling about the spirit world, as well as the spirits of the deceased who are still there among them. And so this is a really interesting kind of contemporary take on a very ancient pre-Columbian idea that is found in many Mesoamerican cultures, from the Olmec, the Maya, the Aztec, and others. And one of the things that impressed me the most about A War of Witches is its explicit connections to the mythology and the magic of the ancient Aztec world. We find, for example, the deepest levels of the underworld are called Miquitalan, which is clearly cognate with the Aztec Mictlan for the land of the dead. The larger underworld realm is called Talocan, which is related to Tlaloc, the god of rain, and one of the denizens of the underworld, which brings us now to today's mask.